Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well. And today, my friends, we're back taking a look here at the Age of Empires 4 patch 10257, which essentially is going to be their January patch. So this should be coming here probably in the next week or two, I would imagine. We'll see if they have an actual date below, but I don't think there is unless I missed it before. So this is the patch that's going to be fixing a number of issues that are very core to the game, right? Like Delhi Spears not working, HRE Spears, but there are other balancing changes as well. Not like a huge array of them, but a couple that I think are very, very pertinent in the more immediate scope of the game, especially as it pertains to the Mongols, early tower abuse, and things like that. So let's go ahead and scroll down and take a look here. So one thing they did change, and this is basically going to make it so your quick battles are found quicker. You guys have probably seen this on my stream. Sometimes we have to wait like 3 to 5 minutes to get a match. So they basically made the ELO searching and the matchmaking a little bit more relaxed. You can see, yeah, it's been increased by 67%. So that's basically it, which I think is a really nice change. I'm very happy to see that. Spend a lot of time on stream just kind of sitting, waiting for games. So I do like that change quite a bit. Now, this is another one, a nerf to pro scouts, and it seems to be definitely one of the focal points here of this patch. So pro scouts is pretty much the meta on non-hybrid, non-water maps for everyone except Abbasid, Delhi, and English probably, because England can feasibly go with like a farm economy, and they pretty much are always pressuring. But it's kind of like in many matchups, it can be do or die, or at least it was pre-patch, or I guess on the current patch. We haven't had this yet. But I do like the nerf to pro scouts. I've never really... I don't like that I have to do it and I don't have other options. That's always been my biggest gripe with it. Yes, you can go to TC against pro scouts and try and play it that way and then just try and outboom them in the long run. But what happens is they get such a food advantage on you and your food gets so slow because you have to switch to berries. You have to start setting up farms, which is going to use wood. Then you're not having as much military infrastructure. It just kind of felt like it was do or die. And even trying to counterplay it, the scouts were so quick. Unless you had a bunch of horsemen, which again is a huge feudal age investment, it didn't really seem like you could have a lot of success there. So basically now scouts move 35% faster while carrying an animal, which is going to make them similar speed to infantry, actually. I think spearmen with that modifier applied will be maybe a little bit slower than a scout or maybe in the ballpark. So I like this change a lot. I think that pro scouts was a little bit too dominant and I like to see other playstyles being encouraged. Now, that's not to say pro scout still isn't really good. Maybe we'll see people go for the deers closer to their base and then maybe be a little bit more cautious for the forward ones. I still think it's going to be incredibly strong, but it doesn't seem like, based on this change, it's going to be as just dominant. At least there's some counterplay. At least the infantry and archers can kind of catch them while they're doing that, and you have an option to try and pressure them off. So I like that quite a bit. Now, another change here, horsemen in the second and fourth age, ranged armor increased by 1 at each tier. So does this include the current, because right now they have 1 ranged armor at feudal age. Is that going to be or maybe they have 1 armor always, including dark ages if you're considering the Mongols. So is that going to be 1 armor in the dark ages with Mongols? And then is it going to be 2 armor in feudal, which I think would be good? Because, yeah, that's kind of the thing. Worsemen, as they're often called, are okay at late game raiding and zerging people's economies. But in terms of actually fighting in the feudal age, most people just opt to go double archery range because it's just so much more cost effective and it's safer. But horsemen here, getting an extra armor, if they do indeed have 2 armor now in the feudal age, based on what we were kind of thinking here, I think that would be a really good change, and I do like that quite a bit. And then they get an extra armor for free as you progress. Obviously, horsemen aren't as much as bad in the later ages because in Castle Age and Imperial Age, they're typically just being used to torch artillery and things like that. So yeah, I do like this change. If it's working as I think it is, where you have 2 armor in the feudal age, then I'm pretty happy about that. So Holy Romans, these are going to be faction specific changes here. Holy Roman spearmen now activate. So yeah, they have the spear wall, they can brace, and they fixed the prelate bug, which is good. And I think that's fine. I mean, Holy Romans are a little bit one-dimensional, more of a one-trick pony with the Regnitz Cathedral. But I do think that down the road, hopefully we'll see some changes to the landmarks that are just absolutely terrible. But for now, the prelate is going to be fixed, which is good. And yeah, for the most part, I don't think Holy Romans were an issue in the meta, right? So Rus Horse Archers, this is good. So Rus Horse Archers were heavily bugged and undercosted in my opinion. So what they did is Horse Archers now attack slower. It's funny because their actual firing rate was not 2. It was 1.5. It was bugged out before. So now it's going up to 2.5, which is going to significantly lower their DPS. They no longer receive additional attack speed and additional damage from the incendiary arrows technology, which is good because basically you would just see Rus players mouth breathing and spamming them all through the entire game, and that's all they would do. They could snipe artillery, they can snipe armor. They just hit super hard. The role that I would like to see Rus Horse Archers in is raiding, not as a huge main combat line of your army. So now it looks like based on the attack speed nerf, them not getting the Imperial Age upgrades. I think we might see them more like a raiding unit where suddenly they use their mobility, which is how I feel they should be used. And they appear in the back of your base. They get a bunch of villagers with a couple, quick raids, and then they pull back. Like, I always felt like they were like, as a mainline battle unit, just like trampling over all your armor and everything was a little bit stupid. So I do agree with the Horse Archer nerf. Should be enough. I mean, because they were attacking at like 1.5 speed, even though it said 2. I'm pretty sure I saw some testing videos on that. So going up to 2.5 is a pretty big DPS nerf, which I think is very, very warranted. Warrior Monks will also carry relics 25% slower. So yeah, definitely some big nerfs to Rus and Castle Age. Because Rus Castle Age was pretty like overpowered. What would happen is they get Castle Age, Horse Archers would pin you on your base, when the Warrior Monks would grab all the relics. Honestly, this isn't going to matter too much. Like, they'll still get the relics and still go back to the base. So if you're a Rus main, don't feel too bad about this. Now for the Mongols, this is what everybody's looking for. Starting wood decreased by 50, which is great. Because again, they don't have to build houses. So they had a ton of extra wood, and that really was being seen in the tower rush that we were seeing from Mongol players and their dogs. And, you would have people who would be like 1600 elo, and like really in reality, they're like a 1350 player, but they just like cheesed you every game with towers, and that's how they would do it. But outposts increased to 100 wood. Great. I think that's nice for sure. They already don't have to build houses, so they're getting a huge surplus of extra wood anyway. So yeah, outposts increased. Fixed an exploit where it's possible to own multiple Ovos, which doesn't really happen too much in 1v1, but you do see it a lot in team games. That's a good change. And the Khagadate Palace can now be packed correctly. So overall, is this going to make the Mongols bad? No, not at all. Like, the thing is, Mongols are still like, I still think they're going to be the best civ, like, even after these changes. Like, yeah, the outposts will be less abusive, but the problem is, like, the Khan is really, really busted, like, what he can bring to the table. And also, like, some of their landmarks are just freakishly good. Like, of course, Silver Tree's okay. It's like, I don't think that's the way to go. I'm talking more about the step redoubt. And I honestly still think Mongols are going to be the best civ. Yeah, they won't tower cheese you as much, but maybe they'll be slightly weaker on hybrid maps because of their how much tougher it will be for them. But they can still double produce in the Dark Ages. They can still get a tower up on your dock. I don't think the nerfs to Mongols here were adequate, and I think there needs to be more. Unless they plan on like bringing up everybody else, Mongols are still going to be trash canning people. And though I'm happy with the tower nerfs, I'm a little bit unhappy that Mongols didn't get hit in other places, because I feel like they're still just so overtuned compared to the other civs. Delhi Sultanate, Spearmen now work, which is great. Keeps work properly, so now keeps aren't going to be getting more research time when they're near a mosque. Piety being researched down 600. Okay, that's not even that big of a one. Explosives being added. Okay, that's fine. Like, that's only pertinent on like hybrid maps and whatever. It's not a huge deal. So Chaser Cannon's getting changed. Now this is Hardened Spearmen. These are a couple buffs that I think is going to put Delhi up quite a bit on terms of like their faction tier. Hardened Spearmen research normally takes forever and making Delhi really weak in the feudal age against pressure, but now it's 105 seconds instead of 210. This is a huge buff as well. Sanctity is having 90 seconds taken off it. So that is incredible. So that is the tier 2 sacred site capture. So we're getting a bit of a glimpse of like old Delhi back, where they can actually like play some feudal age sacred play. Whereas now it's kind of like you're almost going castle by the time you get Sanctity. I love this change, and I think that's really good. And I think we're going to be seeing Delhi doing better. Herbal Medicine and Honed Blades. So Honed Blades was super buggy. It basically counted as an Imperial Age upgrade before, but now Honed Blades is going to be 1350 down to 300 seconds. So now you can actually use the Honed Blades in Castle Age. So I think this might mean we're going to be seeing a little bit of a Delhi Men-at-Arms play like we used to. That was really their meta before. It was going House of Learning, Men-at-Arms, instead of like Haggard Stone Tower cheeses and things like that we're seeing now. But still, I think the Stone Tower cheese is going to be probably stronger than the House of Learning, but this certainly gives you like play options. And this is what I like to see, like buffing of a landmark through an upgrade here. Like, it diversifies the play of the faction. That's what I would have liked to have seen with some of the other civs. But again, I'm sure more patches will come down the road. Fire Lancers. Fire Lancers getting nerfed. In competitive play, it's more of a map specific thing, but I do think Fire Lancers can be super oppressive. And like when they get numbers, like it kind of feels like you can't really counterplay them effectively because of the splash damage, right? So even if you get like a front line of spears bracing, like they'll brace against the first couple and then they just get flattened by the second wave. And bonus first range type was removed. On top of that, their splash damage has been reduced, so it does 50% additional damage instead of 100 to nearby units. So the overall splash isn't going to be quite as good, which is they'll still be good for like raiding and hitting, like villager patches and things like that. But they're not going to be destroying your heavily armored knights, which they shouldn't. But they currently do with proper cycle charging. And the torch damage was reduced as well. This is mostly like something for team games and casual games. I don't see Fire Lancers used too much in competitive, like high level. I'm talking real sweaty stuff, but overall, I do like the changes to the Fire Lancers. I think it's going to make team games far less toxic. Yeah, more Fire Lancer changes. Interesting, it's like, Yeah, I'm kind of unhappy with the China changes though. Like they didn't even look at like the Chinese tanks. Like how many of you guys have played and just felt the pure misery that it is to face off against like Imperial Age China with like 1,000 HP bombard cannons with faster, longer range than your spring alds and just like, yeah. So this is like very much like there's some good things for sure, like the Mongol tower rush, the spears being fixed, Rus horse archers being hit. Like I don't know why they nerfed Rus horse archers, but they didn't touch like Mongols later, like at all with the double production. They didn't touch the Chinese bombard cannons. China is very map specific though, so maybe that's why they let them have their kind of gimmick on the one big map. But I feel like artillery in general needs to be nerfed heavily because the game it just is Age of Artillery. When it comes down to late game, whoever has better artillery control and better artillery superiority just wins. Even if the other player is playing better and 80% of the scenario, like the artillery superiority will just win positions and win you the game. So I'm happy for the patch for sure. A little bit disappointed that we're not getting some of the other changes we talked about, but overall I think it's a step in the right direction for sure. So I'm happy that Relic is on it. On top of this, you can look. In the meantime, we've begun to prepare a February patch. So this is good news. Hopefully it's not late February. Let's go for early, based on what we've seen in the forums and other social channels, as well as our experience in the game. Right now, we're looking at strengthening the Abbasid, which is really good. Improving counterplay versus siege, excellent. I think that's really a step in the right direction. Tuning demo ships, another great choice. And ensuring elephants and mounted cavalry units no longer attack faster when their animation is canceled. So I know there's like kind of some contention about animation canceling. Like I really dislike it as a mechanic. I think obviously there's the argument to be made, like the really sweaty argument that like higher level players with better micro are going to be more efficient at it and they're being rewarded for their micromanagement. But giving them a faster base attack rate than they're supposed to have is absolute BS. It's absolute BS. Like they should be capped at their attack rate. Like you have that in other RTS games. Like you can do animation like scooting and shooting as you see in StarCraft. That would be like if Marines in StarCraft took a stutter step like they usually do to kite away, but they could attack faster. It doesn't work that way. Basically, you're creating distance with your animation canceling in that game. Like so, for example, like in this, it shouldn't give them a faster attack rate. And in some of the events I was casting on EGC TV, like we saw that being so dominant. One player would be paying slightly better attention, and you get like 3 scouts in the Dark Ages. Marine Lord was doing this quite a bit, and basically they would just be like torching buildings and like sniping workers because they're attacking like several 100% faster than what they're supposed to be doing, which I think is really like, I mean, I don't blame the high level players for doing that when there's money on the line. Of course, everyone's doing it at that level, but I think it's kind of a toxic mechanic, and it like clearly is not how the game is supposed to be played. So like you can't expect people on ladder to not animation cancel out of their chivalrous hearts. So I completely understand that, but I do think that should be a huge priority for Relic for sure. But again, I'm happy with our future roadmap here. I think the changes are good overall, like some things, but like a lot of big problems. Maybe it's more complex, like the Mongol changes. So they need to take a bigger look at them, but Mongols are still going to be dominant. Like they still have the siege engineering. They still have like free units. Like there's so much they can do. But overall, I'm happy with the patch. I'm stoked that Relic is dropping this bad boy. And I hope that it's like mid to early February. Like because a lot of people I talk to, their interest in the game is certainly, I still play this game every day on my own time and I love it. But I think a lot of people's interest is dwindling a little bit. I think we need to see diversification of landmarks and playstyles. Like the fact that Holy Romans are just like stuck on Regnitz Cathedral and like certain factions are so dominant on certain maps, it kind of like makes it like, what can you do against China on like a choke point map if you're playing like, on like French Pass or like Hill and Dale? Unless you really just outplay them early or you're just a far better player, they're going to have such an advantage against you. So there's like things like that. I would like to be able to play a Abbasid on any map and like be able to have something that I could compete with them with. But anyways, yeah, I'm still very happy with the game. I really enjoy Age of Empires quite a bit, and I will of course be covering it. But overall, yeah, I like the direction the patch is going, but I do want to see a little bit more, especially as it pertains to buffing some of the other civs and bringing down, the Mongols a little bit more. I still think they're going to be far too overtuned at the higher level. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that breakdown. We'll see you next time, my friends. Take care of yourselves, and we will be back with more streams and goodness soon.